people are tired of women.
That's no good. This
Come on, man.
Stealing your parents' credit card.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
To fruit basket.
Hello.
Hi. Okay, so explain how you are turning me to the alt-right.
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, just to start the show off, and then we'll get into that, is...
Shower time, Adderall, a glass of whiskey, and diesel jeans.
What was that one?
It's the lawyer, the
What?
Why? I'm not a cat.
Oh my God, that first one I was like, what did you pull that from?
I love that little moment. So
I'm here live.
So now that we got our glass of whiskey, our Adderall, and our diesel jeans, I'll tell you. So yeah, we had a friend over that's still talks to a friend of yours that doesn't live here anymore, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Sorry, I was like, my brain was doing the mental gymnastics to walk through one singular sentence. I said,
Maybe it's my fault. Well, it's part of my brain that's converting you to the alt-right. This is all very premeditated.
so
and planned.
some of my friends that I don't really talk to anymore are under the impression that I'm being pulled to the alt-right by my boyfriend. I guess let's run a poll.
Yeah.
Let's run a straw poll and see, am I getting pulled to the alt-right?
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, I'm just saying more and more progressive things that are distancing myself from... Like, I'm saying, let's burn down Nancy Pelosi's house in Minecraft.
Right.
Which is a progressive thing.
Right. Correct. Yeah, because, well, you know, there's lots of establishment ghouls we're going to talk about. But so I've talked to this person once at a party. We were all wasted.
Yeah, once at a party.
And based on, I guess, what did I say?
Did I drive that night? I must have.
No, I did.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
being very bad. No, I wasn't that drunk.
I don't think you were either.
But they were, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But like, I don't even recall what it is I could have possibly said that would have. Because it's such an extreme accusation, right? It's like,
yeah.
It's not like, oh, you know, you might be kind of conservative. It's like, no, you're a Nazi, you know. And it's like,
right, exactly.
Huh. So, or you know, and then also that goes along with being a white supremacist. And can I give some identity factors on this person, or do you really care?
You can say that they are
a black lesbian,
a person of yeah.
Which is like what makes it so interesting. So it's.
And in fairness, I haven't reached out to this person to ask if they actually think that.
What would be the point? I mean,
I don't know.
Like, and the
weird.
fact that like this person's not talked to you for so long, but communicates with somebody that you still do communicate with, and would make that accusation is so insane. And I think what's like the funniest part about it is it gives your intelligence no credit. Like that. Yeah. I could just so easily Charles Manson you into my alt-right cult.
I think, like...
You talk about preserving the white race one time, and suddenly you're Richard Spencer. I mean, what kind of world do we live in here?
I think, like, the person I was 4 or 5 years ago is different than who I am now. But people who are from that part of my life still have the impression that I am that person. You know?
Right.
Like, back then, I was blacking out Thursday through Sunday. I was crazy back then.
And then you stepped it up, and then now you've got it together. So
Shower time, Adderall, a glass of whiskey, and diesel jeans.
And that's my Friday night.
Yeah.
So
turn up.
Turn up. I get home, I take a shower, I drink a glass of whiskey, have an Adderall, and put on my diesel jeans. I get
a little Adderall as a treat.
Yeah.
You know?
I chew on it like a Smarties candy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be a wild ride.
Yeah, but yeah, so I'm alt-right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
You know? Welcome. No, you're not alt-right.
What was the Nazi glasses thing the other day that was like such a perfect Nazi glasses? I think Steve posted about it. It was like, I don't know. It's just like people, just Nazis are they're creeping around every corner to some people.
Yeah, and it's like this nebulous thing that we like can't. I don't know, that there's just it's there. It's like COVID.
Well,
you can't get rid of it, and to avoid it, you have to
Well, it's so clearly
suss it out.
It's so clearly used by a certain group of people to just dismiss any counter argument to their point, which is what's interesting to me is like, so I must have said something she disagreed with. And so just because she disagreed with me, I'm a Nazi.
Yes.
So I mean, that's kind of and so what she doesn't really realize is like, so how she would view me to be radicalizing you. It's like, no, you might be the one who got radicalized by the Democratic Party. I mean, I don't really know. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for her like she speaks for you, but
Greg's comment just said in an awful British accent, "You all right, babes? You all right?" That makes me think of like an alt-right Austin Powers.
Right. Right.
"You all right, baby?"
I'm trying to be like, I was going to make out with Beyonce, but I decided that
Nope.
it might muddy the waters.
Oh no.
I am a big fan of Jared Taylor.
No.
I'm kind of like slipping into Australia now. I said that fucking weird Australian.
Australian.
That's really strange. But I think largely what this is this.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
What the hell was that?
It's from Cool Hand Luke.
What the hell was even that? Cool Hand Luke?
It's a really old movie with Paul Newman, yeah.
I've never...
It's just, I thought it was a great sound drop.
That is a good one.
Yeah, and I love the way he like delivers it.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Is he like...
Oh, sorry. So Paul Newman gets arrested.
Is he like touched? Is that...
No, he's just Louisianan. He's just from Louisiana.
Why does he deliver it like that?
It's exact. Did you ever see Live and Let Die, the Bond movie?
Yes, I've seen it.
I could swear to God that, remember the kind of touched sheriff guy that like just gets his whole life fucked up and keeps trying to, during the boat chase scene?
Yeah.
And it's just like that guy. I mean, the guy looks exactly the same way. And I think Paul Newman was like mouthing off to him when they're like doing a chain game thing. And then he has to like kind of submit or something else will happen. And then it's what we got here is a failure to communicate. And then there was another line from a movie that I wanted to get for a drop, and I thought it was from Cool Hand Luke, but it's actually, I think, from Repo Men. But it's like these two black guys in like a trash truck. They see like a white guy in a dumpster, and they go like, "What a waste of a perfectly good white boy." But I can't remember what movie it's from. I think it's Repo Men, but I'm not. I could be totally wrong on that. But yeah, that's just like one of the classic hits. I love that movie. It's really good. So
let's get into the most pressing news of the day.
Yeah.
Neera Tanden. The very much revered and incredible woman of color, Neera Tanden, has withdrawn her nomination.
I think
for the OMB or OMB.
And what's funny is, so if you pull up her
budget, basically the director of the budget.
If you pull up her Twitter, it still has...
Oh, no. Director of OMB nominee, liberal, Indian American, feminist, mom, wife, not in that order.
Why wouldn't you put
so embarrassing.
Mom and wife and then, like, whatever. So... I think that she might be the first person who lost a cabinet position because they were too online. I think that might be. Is that probably true? Right.
That's probably true, and it's all
me.
Thanks to the Bernie Bros.
Yeah, which are sexist, and like that was the weird part about it. Was according to her. So she hasn't tweeted since March 2nd, which is a very long time for her.
Yeah, she's constantly online.
Yes, and she. I mean, it's so crazy because they. We're fighting over whether or not she should get the nomination while not passing COVID relief.
Right.
But the amount of interference that was run for her, like they try to use all their usual fucking angles, which is like, they don't want to nominate her because she's Indian. And everyone's like, no. Yeah. Like and then they have like all the receipts of her talking shit about people that aren't white. Like, and just like, so does she tweet mean things to them because they're not white? So is she a racist? And then it's like, oh, well, then that didn't work. So now, well, anybody who doesn't want her nomination, because she didn't get the nomination through, everybody that did it is sexist. And that didn't work. And
well, it's the age-old story of using identity politics to deflect to deflect as a reason for why she didn't get the job. And it's like, of course they're protecting her,
right? And to use Jen Psaki, we're going to circle back.
Oh, fucking Jen Psaki,
dead. Like she's got like dead eyes, just dead
eyes,
black eyes, like Adele's eyes. But so she circle back. Oh fuck! I lost my train of thought. I got focused on my Quint impression, and now I've like fucked my whole life.
We were talking about Neera Tanden.
Sexist. So like, I mean, what's next is they're going to be like, oh, she didn't get the nomination because of Nazis.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, that's of course what it's going to be.
Yes.
And tomorrow she's going to start tweeting about it.
Naturally.
But of course, so like basically the rundown is that Joe Biden is still going to offer her a position that doesn't need Senate approval. Right. Which is crazy to me. It's crazy that even exists. That the president can do that. Like, look, like when I'm president, I'm gonna hire you as the freaking I'm gonna hire you as the OMB or like a cabinet member who doesn't require like 60 votes to get Neera Tanden in.
Right.
I'm just gonna appoint them as something.
Right. Yeah. And
it's the craziest thing about the presidency that you can just give jobs to people that are not qualified whatsoever, or that are qualified based only on the fact that they're a woman of color.
Well, yeah, which, I mean, you know, Kamala Harris is definitely a diversity hire, but it's like, it's interesting because, I don't know. I mean, like, and what sucks too about the conversation surrounding her not getting it is it's like people are like, oh, it's because she had mean tweets, and it's like, no, because she's a fucking like Hillary, obsequious,
exactly,
Hillary ass cunt sniffing sycophant who fucking laundered a bunch of money through like American Progress and took it away from progressives while claiming to be a progressive.
Yeah.
And then like also like punched someone's staffer, like,
holy
and then
shit.
she outed some woman that worked for American Progress that like had a sexual assault claim, like kind of being investigated, and she outed the person. And so
oh my God,
she's just a monstrous human that, like, again, like for her to wield any kind of power, I mean, she clearly is unstable, and like you said, if she starts tweeting again immediately, she really should just lay low, you know. But if she opens her dumb mouth again, then she just,
well, she's a fucking liability.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a massive liability for a presidency that is the most standard, traditional, bomb other countries presidency.
Yeah, so
it's the most like, this is what we have to do as the United States.
And it's interesting, and actually, I mean, kind of a positive outcome of the, you know, of a post-Trump presidency is because the media was so, in a good way, I mean, investigating literally everything Trump did, and it made the whole process, and just like through the investigations that were going on surrounding Trump, it became this TV show for everybody to watch. You know, like, what's Trump? Wow, what's he doing today? You know, and like. And like even when he did things that were innocuous, they'd still report on it. So now it's like, I think people, now that we're all still stuck inside because of the Wuhan wheeze, we're having to everyone's still plugged into the TV. So people, even like the people who hated Trump with every fiber of their being, are now kind of noticing that Biden is getting really astroturfed by the entire like cathedral. Mm-hmm. And then the thing, like, and then the things that he does are, so, you know, before passing COVID relief, he's bombed Syria.
Bombed Syria, yes.
Fought tooth and nail to get Neera Tanden into this position,
right,
where she could manage money, even though she laundered it through American Progress.
He shut down the $15 minimum wage.
Shut down the $15 minimum wage, which, by the way, the parliamentariat could be broken by Kamala Harris, but
she's choosing not to because they respect democracy.
Right. Which, I mean, you know, so...
I mean, blow me.
I think what's interesting is, like, you know, obviously they're still bootlickers, you know, that just will just literally bend over backwards to. Also, we have migrant overflow centers now for minors.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, what did we expect? This is
what we expected.
I know. So like, this is like run of the mill, garden variety Democratic president. United States nation. It's like, this is exactly what we were going to get when we voted for Biden.
Right.
And we all knew it all along. And yet stupid people like that dumb bitch with the short hair and the glasses was like, you better vote for Biden or you'll get a fascist.
Oh God,
fascist.
Do you feel sorry for her because she's like become a meme now? Like basically, like every time Biden does something horrible, that's just a picture of her, like a still of her face from that video now.
I have some empathy for her.
I do,
but
too,
I think the issue with her is that she's probably like 21
in art school.
Yeah. is completely insulated. Has no idea what poverty looks like.
Sure. Yeah.
It has no idea why somebody who's in poverty would vote for somebody like Trump. And so she's so just massively uninformed. But she is so bombastic in her like statement. So it's like, or she has such a staunch stance on voting for Biden that it's like, this is your hubris. This is you did this to yourself.
Yeah. And now you kind of deserve to sit in your own shit. But and also at the same time, it's like, if you were to just take what she said in that video and have like Neil deGrasse Tyson read it, it would just seem like basically, bootlicking Democratic Party shit. But it's the tone through which she chose to deliver that message of who are you convincing with this? I don't understand. Like it actually is so repugnant. It makes you just kind of be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like this woman's going to like somehow bully me into support. But
yeah, it's like a lack of self-awareness that makes me a lack of her entire identity, self-awareness of her identity that makes me not feel as bad for her as I should.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, just sort of, and people like Neera Tanden and like that sort of establishment kind of thing, and how like they just try to weaponize identity politics at every corner. I mean, and there's so much fucking receipts, especially regarding her when WikiLeaks leaked all like a bunch of Hillary shit, and it was just like she just has the most vile, horrible shit about everybody, even like reporters we like Lee Fong and like she would just Jimmy Dore. Like I mean, she was just after everybody that was even slightly to the left of her. And so I mean, like Hillary, like Joe Biden, like Kamala Harris, like Neera Tanden is if she gets to call herself a progressive here, but if she was in like Denmark, she'd be like a far right conservative. And and so so we, what do we get for this exchange on this vote is we get people like her, which had a possibility of actually having a position of power, which like you said she'll still get. She'll get some position of power that doesn't have to be approved by the Senate. Because this is how this corrupt shit works in Washington, where they can just shuffle people around. Mayor Pete is Secretary of Transportation. It's just like,
it's absolutely ridiculous.
I was telling you though, I mean, and I'm sure you agree, is it like even doing the show today, I'm like, I don't even like it's just so predictable what they're doing that it's kind of like it's hard to even get excited or interested about talking about it. You know? Like.
I know politics has been so dry lately. It's because we have this stupid dry ass presidency.
Right.
That's just like, well, duh, this is all happening.
Well, it's dry because he's legislating the same way that Donald Trump did, but there's no hysteria surrounding him because he's not on TV all the time.
Yeah.
And we know why, because every time he literally can't get two sentences out without some really kind of flub to it, and so they by design, and then it's tough because like people who were hysterical about Trump, that all of the press secretaries he had, Kelly McEnany was the last one or whatever, and then we get at least she was hot and lied, and then and now we get dead shark eyes for Biden who lies, but not in like an interesting. It's like more irritating because she expects the whole media to astroturf Biden. And so, like, left Democrat reporters who are super biased against Trump are now starting to ask questions of, like one of the questions one of them asked, and you heard it, was like, why are you guys pushing so hard for this Neera Tanden thing and not passing COVID relief?
Yeah.
And what was her answer to that? It was so lame.
It was the $15 minimum wage
yes,
that they
I'm
were
sorry,
not passing. She said, well, it's not a one-step process. And, we're going to respect the fact that the parliamentarian is, the one who ultimately makes the decision.
Right. So,
but they're pushing for Neera Tanden to be director of the OMB.
Right.
Much harder than a $15 minimum wage.
Right.
We were talking last time we did the podcast, the minimum wage would be, it hasn't changed since the 80s.
It's 1970.
1970.
If you count for inflation, it's not gone up since 1970.
It has not gone up since 1970. With accounting for inflation, it should be $25 to $35.
I think it should be about I think $32 is like the last number I saw, but that kind of fluctuates. It's either between well, you're right, like between like 27 and like 32 is kind of what I was seeing.
And people wonder why people are starving and struggling to get by. Like the first of the month was what, 2 days ago? Mm-hmm. That money just left my bank account for rent, for my health insurance, which is an additional $160, which is cheap on the health insurance scale, but I can hardly afford it.
Right.
That's like already $1,000 leaving my account on the first of the month, and that doesn't account for any of my other subscriptions.
Oh, and then your catalytic converter got stolen.
My
too.
catalytic converter got stolen,
Yeah, that
which
was cool.
is a $600 repair.
At minimum, but fortunately your dad's handy, so that
in the
got
state of
handled that way.
California.
Yes.
So my catalytic converter got stolen. What else happened in the last couple weeks? Somebody lit a fire in our fucking dumpster in the
Right.
back here.
Yeah, on purpose. We have it on camera.
On purpose. We have the video of it.
Yeah.
So people are clearly going out of their goddamn minds.
Yes.
Because they don't have money and they cannot support their family. So somebody steals my converter and sells it off for $250 or like salvages the metal from it so that they can put food on the table. I don't blame them. I know it's a sleazy thing to do for them to steal my catalytic converter,
Right.
but I don't blame them for needing the money when our government is refusing to give it to people.
I know.
When we can't have jobs.
I know. It's really, really getting pathetic. And like, and it's so stark to me right now. I mean, it's something I already knew, but it's just that it's going this way is like, why don't we get to vote on, they put it on an emergency ballot. Like, we are about to drone strike Syria. No, thank you. No American wants this.
Right.
Nobody. Like, and literally the only thing Republicans and Democrats want overwhelmingly is money. Mm-hmm. Like, we have suffered. This has been a fucking year, dude. And it's like,
yeah, give it up for day number 348 or whatever the fuck of the pandemic closing down our country.
Yeah, it's just, oh God. And then like, in the media is like, now they're talking about, there's a fucking insurrection, like enough of this. And like, it's crazy. So like I think Christopher Wray, he's the head of the FBI right now. And they asked him, like, what a Republican senator pushed him on saying, did you find any guns at the Capitol? Like, and he had to finally admit no. So how is this an armed insurrection? And then I saw like a bunch of bootlicking Democrats being like, well, they had baseball bats. And I'm like, you're not going to overthrow the government with a baseball bat. Like, what the fuck? What are we doing anymore? And then there's still a massive military presence in DC. Like, it's a fucking police state. They still have all those barbed wire fences around the Capitol building now. And an anticipation that something's supposed to happen tomorrow, I guess. But it's like, it probably won't. Even if it does, nothing's going to happen. Like, who gives a shit? I don't know. So it's just, their priorities are so clear. We have no power over what they do. And so it's like, yeah, you guys deserve to get fucking killed. The same way you fucking drone struck and killed 22 people in Syria that probably had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. And
we're only invading Syria because of a fucking pipeline. They pretend it's because of like the massively debunked OPCW thing, which is about how like Assad was gassing his own citizens, which he was not. And like, we know this for a fact now. And the moderate rebels we're arming are fucking ISIS. So it's like, what are we doing? But instead of getting people money, it's much more important to push through a ghoul like Nira Tandon and drone strike Syria and lock down the fucking Capitol and call everything Nazis. Everyone's sexist. Everyone's racist.
Such is how we preserve democracy.
Do you think have you noticed, because I had a Twitter exchange with a friend, an acquaintance of mine who was like a gender fluid, non-binary, like all the politics that come along with that.
Really? You had a friend like that?
Well, that happened once he went to art school. Surprise, surprise. and more of Jack's age group of people. So not my age. Today on Twitter he was like, fuck all this shit. This is like an oligarchy, but I'm asking, my question to you is like, have you seen your friends kind of start to
become based?
Yeah.
Yes. Many of them on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, finally. And like people who I never thought would favorite my tweets have begun to. Mm-hmm. Like old friends of mine from Bennington. I'm just like shocked to see it happen. But I guess like deep down, everybody is capable of being fucking based if they look hard enough.
Sure.
I just think most people are not willing to do the work.
I think though that like, you know, when Trump was like largely what made, you know, this podcast kind of more interesting to do during the Trump administration was us dissecting shit that most people didn't want to actually dissect and just sort of give our thoughts on like, should you be alarmed or should you not be alarmed?
Right.
And most of the time it was the latter. But you know, the entire cathedral was telling you to fucking panic every fucking day for 4 years. So yeah, it's just, I'm hope, like, my point is that I think that, even the most average person can't ignore it anymore. Like the optics of the Syrian airstrike before COVID relief is so stark. I would love to see even the most, I'd love to see your sister-in-law defend that.
Yeah. Although speaking of people turning on, the oligarchy, the establishment, Governor Cuomo is now has a target on him, and rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
We've hated him for a long time.
But similar to the Tandon, so it's in like the Democratic Party tool chest to get rid of somebody is always the same things. So you know, with Tandon, it was well, you know, from the left, it was again focusing on her mean tweets and not on like her actually being a horrible person in ways that affect people's day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And with Cuomo, it's like, okay, so Ron Kim, the guy who I don't know what his position was with Cuomo, but it was close, was starting to report that like, hey, he's starting to put after knowing it's killing people, putting COVID positive patients, like making COVID wards in nursing homes, and it's killing thousands of people. And he got so concerned that he actually went to the organization, it's like a global human rights organization.
The UN?
The UN.
Yeah.
And like the Human Rights Council of the UN, and said like, this guy is like seriously causing like crimes against humanity, you know?
Yeah.
And then Cuomo,
how many thousands of people died?
Over 10,000. I think it's like 15,000 now. Like
that's fucking
directly
unreal.
as a response of things that Governor Cuomo ordered, because he has kickbacks from nursing home facilities and these kinds of things. So he personally was standing to profit based on these decisions. So again, I mean, that just establishes that someone is a sociopath. And so what I'm curious about now is like, so the Cuomo sexual thing, like people were just, as an objective observer who doesn't live in New York, I don't really know what Cuomo's governance was like. I don't really give a shit. I mean, it doesn't really affect my life. So I didn't really care. But I remember like when the COVID thing was first started and he was seen as this fucking rock star to everybody, he just sounded like an idiot. I'm just like, you know, Newsom, equally as much of a sociopathic idiot, at least delivered things in a way that it seemed presidential, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Cuomo just seemed like a dumb fucking greasy meatball who has
and would like
barely passed high school.
He would like stupidly strong arm any questions that he got.
Yeah.
In a way that was so smug, and when he didn't have any answers, and it was just like
it was smug, but like not like people kept calling them slam dunks, and I'm like, no, it's just dumb. He's just a dumb person.
Yeah.
It's the kind of guy that you could bully so easily if you had with just having like over 100 IQ. Like it would, because he just would not have a defense. You'd be like, well, you're blah blah blah. Well, you're a blah blah blah. Like it's that kind of dumb sort of person. No offense to people that whatever, but yeah, it was astounding. So to circle back, it's odd to me. So like directly responsible, 15,000 deaths, and it's sexual assault claims that they're using to get rid of him.
Right. It's not 15,000 people dead.
And I really do think what this is the Democratic Party understands and the cathedral. So like every news network that wasn't Fox News fawned over this stupid meatball faggot. So like now they're accountable for their actions, even though that like this news of this nursing home thing was way early on in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Everyone being like, what is he doing? And then he had the fucking hubris to write a book about how great of a job he did. They gave him a fucking Emmy. And so Emmy's the cathedral, like publishers of the cathedral, his brother being on CNN, MSNBC, like, and then politicians loved him, right? And I think they understand that the optics of getting rid of him over decisions that they were aware of is it would tarnish the cathedral's brand more than just sort of brushing it off with sexual assault claims where he can just vanish.
Right.
Which is kind of like how these things work. Like, these women never get justice. It's just like the person kind of has to like get out of the limelight. And he said he won't resign. So, and that Ron Kim guy is the one that's like trying to recall him. But it's interesting to me. It's very similar to like the Neera Tanden thing and like what people chose to focus on. And it all feels very, very, very much by design.
Of course.
And again, I think largely it's because the DNC doesn't want it to tarnish their brand.
That makes perfect sense.
Which the DNC being the entire fucking cathedral, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of like actions taken against COVID, let's talk about that video, the creepy video that California released in order to go back to school safely.
Yeah. So, okay. So a few things. Like we were a little bit skeptical about the vaccine. I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's just fucking
I want it.
Let's do
Give
it.
it
Let's get it. Yeah. I don't want to like. And I want to get it now because I don't want the fucking Johnson & Johnson one, and which I know is going to start some fucking weird class shit of like the fucking mollycoddling, wear your mask when you're outside type of people are going to not let you into their house because they have the Moderna one, and they're going to be like, oh, you got the Johnson & Johnson one,
the standard vaccine,
the one that
you didn't
like
get the mRNA,
yeah, the one that
couldn't afford it,
the one that's like 10, yeah. You're one of the poor, and like it's the one. So I think it's like 15% less effective overall. And like the concern that I have about it too is that it seems to like not respond as well to the variants that are happening. But I just know people are going to be fucking gay about it. I just know they will. So yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll now.
You wouldn't make the extra expense to save grandma.
Yeah, dude, you know it's coming. You fucking know it.
You couldn't spare an additional like $45.
Oh, you're making me cringe because I can picture the mouths of the people that would say that. Like, and they're in my life. But yeah, I mean, like I went to a friend's house and all of them were either had it already or they were vaccinated, and it was like, man, that must be nice. You know what I mean? Just not like, and again, it's like I'm not concerned about dying of it. I'm more so concerned about, again, getting a novel virus and the inconvenience. Like, I don't want to deal with it, you know. And also too that we like, no one just gets sick on accident anymore. It's you were being very irresponsible. You bad boy.
Yeah, you don't punish illness in a regular society.
I know. But we're not. We are out of our fucking mind.
Imagine.
And men and women are just all Karens. I mean, it's like it's this insane.
Say you have like borderline and you're seeking treatment. Imagine if your friends were like, how could you, like, that's so embarrassing that you got borderline.
Right.
Like, goodness gracious, what did you do to get border? What if they shamed you
for
having a mental illness?
Well, they used to, and now
but we live in 2021,
right? Where now everybody puts it in their Twitter bio and says, "I take Lexapro," and it's like, all right, maybe you should. You need to kind of like, you need to relax here. It's not something to be proud of, but it's not something that should be like stigmatized. It's
a
just,
healthy amount of shame is great.
Yes,
but you shouldn't shame your friends for getting sick, whether that be mentally or physically.
Right.
And yet we're doing that
constantly.
It's insane.
Yeah.
We celebrate mental illness, which is a different
that
thing,
is,
but
it's not celebrating. It's like fetishizing. It's creepy.
It's like, I have autism. I have OCD. I have OCPD. I have bipolar. I have a bum knee.
I'm biracial.
I'm biracial. I have.
That was
I have a squeaky wheel. I've got
throwing some shade at Halsey. What'd you say? Biracial, bisexual, and bipolar. Like
a triple threat.
Good for you. Yeah. So LA. So the big question has been like, opening up schools, right? Which just has to fucking happen. I mean, it's not.
Yeah. The developmental strain that's going on children right now. I'm not even going to talk about like the lack of like proper education. I'm talking about developmental strain. Kids not being able to socialize. It's destroying a generation.
Yeah.
Completely.
Like this online schooling thing is not working. So we did,
and also it puts the strain on parents to school their children, make sure that they're sitting at the computer for 8 hours a day when these parents have to work jobs as well. Oftentimes, when kids are at school, that's when parents are working their jobs.
Right.
When they have a chance to get money to put food on the table for their kids who come home from school at 3 p.m. and are starving.
Correct.
Because we eat lunch at 10 a.m. for some godforsaken reason at school.
I know. Yeah, which you have like 15 minutes to do. So
yeah. Anyway,
no, it's fine. I was trying to like just make sure I wouldn't forget this thing. So we did a video a while back called "Bill Gates is trying to reimagine education," right? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Bill Gates has become, if you criticize Bill Gates, it's become this thing of like, oh, well, you're like a QAnon person. But dude is like really like, and now I've like, cause so Bill Gates became a big focal point of QAnon. And again, with QAnon, it's like Bill Gates is somebody that does have questionable morals, but he also isn't putting microchips in your arm. So it's like, I like why I still think QAnon is a psyop. It's like, and so like any, but so I started looking into Bill Gates. I'm like, okay, what is this fucker up to? Like, besides like even what we talked about. So basically, like these Indian farm protests are because of Bill Gates.
That's right.
Who helped for a minute, where he went into India where they were like having food shortages, and then gave them these genetically modified seeds. And this will get me to the video. Don't worry. Genetically modified seeds, and they gave them like tablets or smartphones or whatever. But what happened is that he was farming their metadata, and then when the seeds stopped propagating, as GMO seeds tend to do, which also have patents on them through Monsanto, which he's a huge donor to, he would then sell the metadata back to the farmers and basically set them back at square one. And so like it caused just massive poverty all over again. And then he's like, well, did my job, out of here. And so
Jesus, dude.
So that's number one. Number two, he I wish I could remember the list, but like the amount of media organizations that he gives, like that give him just glowing media coverage, he gives them millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, it's NPR, it's Bellingcat, which like controls the entire like UK media, MSNBC, like I think not CNN, but I mean he just gives tons and tons of money to it. So like he gets to totally control the narrative if he wants to, because the amount of money he's giving, because he has more money than God, is money that they need to survive. And so if they don't get it from him, they won't get it if they give him negative coverage, right?
Right.
And like also too, rushing out vaccines in Africa that this like did horrible shit. I mean, the guy is like a big fucking problem. And also too, also he's bought up, I think, most of the world's farmland. I mean, like he owns most of all of it. And like a lot of his involvement is in food cultivation. I'm not saying the dude's like evil, but it's hard to not kind of look at it of like, why do you think that your vision for what's going to happen is going to be the right one? Mm-hmm. Like, shouldn't it be left to the people who actually do this?
And when somebody gobbles up that much like power in such a short amount of time, and it's one person,
right,
there's something to be skeptical of.
Right. I mean, it's like Nestle controlling most of the fresh drinking water in this country. It's like, it's just, it just makes you kind of be like, what? Like, what are you doing? And so, it's strange to me too of, similarly to why does he think that he would have any say in what happens in farming? And also, why are networks having him on TV, somebody who didn't graduate college, like he doesn't have a degree at all, talking like he's a fucking virologist? I don't like why do throw money at it, dude. Great. Like with your Gates Foundation, all this kind of shit. But I don't want to hear your opinion on issues that a doctor should be answering. It's fucking weird. So my point of bringing that up is LA Unified School District decided to put out this video that is just schools do need to take precautions. I'm not really sure what they're going to be. I'm not going to give prescriptions of what schools should do to reopen. But this video gave me fucking dystopia vibes, like hard.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is real. This video is real. It's not created by QAnon or any fucking thing. This is fucking real. And you can literally Google the plan and you'll see LA Times articles about it and everything. So here we go.
There's never been anything like this virus in our lifetime. Often, it's hard to see the effects it's having on our children. Has this conversation taken place in your home?
Mom, I'm scared about going back to school. I don't want to get sick, and I don't want to get you and Dad sick.
Our scientists tell us there are 3 things we must do to stay safe. Wear masks, make sure we social distance, and wash our hands.
We're good here.
We've been doing this
School,
for a year.
With the help of Microsoft Corporation,
There
has
it is.
created another. Introducing Daily Pass, your exclusive ticket for safely going back to school. Each week, you can schedule your free on-campus COVID test. The results are displayed in your Daily Pass. And if you choose to take your test off campus, you can post the results in your Daily Pass. And the moment vaccinations are available, you'll simply be able to schedule yours through your Daily Pass. But the real magic is your daily health check. Just answer a few simple health questions every day, and like magic, your entrance ticket appears.
Welcome back. Welcome to school.
I hate this part so much.
It's yeah.
When she gets in the car and they have the
this conversation that never happens in reality ever.
How did it go?
Dad, I have to admit, I was scared at first, but then I felt so safe. It was so good to be back. Thanks for keeping me safe. I love you so much.
What? In what world does that conversation happen? I have never in my life as a child been like, oh, thank you so much for keeping me safe.
And
Mom.
like, what kid is like, I'm afraid of going to school and getting sick, and it's just like, this is like, and again,
kids don't have a brain like this.
And you know, with the 2010 YouTube royalty free music, it's just they're trying to make something that is so utterly dystopic seem cute.
Yeah.
And all I can think is,
Boom! These explosions of bullshit.
so like it's just what are we? Why even say it? Like, you know, why? And sponsored by Microsoft. Like, why put that in there? I mean, like,
I know.
Do you guys want QAnon to, like, you know, like, this is how you get ants? This is how you get QAnon. Like,
yeah,
it's just.
And another thing, I mentioned this actually when we watched it the first time. Oh, this video is made for kids. No, it starts with, have you had this conversation with your children?
Right.
This is a video for
no, nobody's had that conversation.
This is a video for parents and adults. And yet it's framed in a way that's like childish music, childish animation. Like kids are supposed to, I don't know. It's just the framing of it is so odd. It's the coddling of the American mind. The millennial parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's like, I don't really get. So now kids can go to school normally, but they have to get a COVID test every day. Like, and we. What's about with the shortness of tests? Like, we suddenly have hundreds of thousands. Like, what the?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
the fuck are you talking about?
That they're able to offer every single student one a week for free.
Right. And it's like, Biden had the thing by May, all adults will be vaccinated, but that's not like tons of people are under 18. So
yeah.
What the fuck is this? What is this? What is it? I don't get this. I don't get why they thought that this was smart to put out. Like, what fucking committee of retards thought this wouldn't scare the shit out of the... I even showed this to my mom, and she's like, and she's like, COVID is just... It's just in her brain all the time. And she was like, that is bizarre. I mean, it's like we are living in a dystopian movie.
Absolutely.
I mean... Dude, so yeah,
that was fucking weird. So my school has actually implemented things like this before. It's like a daily pass they already have, but campus is closed. So basically, what like you have to do is, like go to the website, do basically that, a little checklist of all of your symptoms. If you have none, you're cleared to come onto campus. Of course, you still have to wear your mask, whatever. But the daily pass thing is not. It's something I'm familiar with, but they've never had to like check it for me, you know, like you go and you make sure that you do this in case they do check, but it's never been, I don't know, it's never been this seriously. You have to do it every single day that you come to school. It's like, this is additional homework for both children and parents.
Right.
It also requires that you have a printer, which is the most fucking faulty machine to ever exist, to ever be invented by mankind.
And nobody, I mean, we have one because it was given to us, but like, you know, the printers are like cheaper than the replacement cartridges are, so everyone just said fuck it, and they don't have them anymore. We do everything digitally, like, and that there's just so much wrong with that video. And like, again, why didn't Microsoft make like a shell corporation to create this app? Like, why did they have to say it's Microsoft?
Right.
When people are already kind of like dubious about Bill Gates right now. It's like, what are you thinking? Like, what are they thinking? Like, did Microsoft pay for this? Like, what the fuck? Like, what?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's just like, guys, for the love, like, we want people to not be insane, and you're making them insane, and then the things that they're insane about, you make it real every day.
Right.
Like, whatever conspiracies they have, they're not even theories anymore because you put out shit like this where it's like, dude, do you not want public trust? Like, do you not? Which again gets us kind of into the next thing I have. is I had this conversation with you the other day. Why do they let Dr. Fauci go and talk to the public?
I have no clue.
Like, look, he's probably good at his job or whatever. But I've personally, whenever he's talked to the public, he has this amazing ability to undermine the credibility of everything. So it's like, look, I mean, what people want to hear, so they don't because we're not being given money, is that the vaccine will come and then we can start to just get on with our fucking lives. And then this fucking dumb wop gets on the news and talks about you have to wear masks until 2021 or 2020 or 2022, and you need to keep social distancing. So basically saying nothing's going to fucking change at all, even though we're all we thought that this was going to be the thing that would kind of get it back to normal. And some people should wear masks or whatever, but he needs a translator. He is such an autist that he cannot understand what I am saying, even though it might have some truth to it, is not going to be well received by the public that is fucking ignorant and terrified, generally speaking. But I've never heard him say anything to the public that was useful information. Some of it just being the complete fucking opposite. I mean, it's incredible that but every news network will have, except for Fox, will have him on to just spew inane, stupid fucking bullshit. And I don't know. I don't understand it at all. Anyway, I talked to you about that, how he needs a translator, and then we get this article from Newsweek. It's by a New York Post writer, of course. So
right, of course.
And it's of course an opinion piece, but
yeah, get Dr. Fauci off TV. It's time for news stations to do the responsible thing and stop putting Anthony Fauci on TV. Fauci is the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and advisor to presidents, including Biden. Few dispute his qualifications.
And really quickly, too, what's amazing to me is then this dumb Guido got on TV and was saying that the last administration handling this was atrocious. And I'm like, bitch, you were in charge of this. So you don't get to skirt responsibility. And I almost think that the Biden administration regrets having him now, but because he was so lionized, kind of like Cuomo in the same way, that he's immune to criticism for anything he does wrong, because he's seen as again, everyone needs daddy. And this 81-year-old retard became...
Who makes more money than the president.
Right, exactly. Anyway.
Let's see. A year into this pandemic, it's clear that his presence has been a muddling one for the country. For starters, there are mistakes. There have been many, and they've been disastrous. A year ago, on February 29, 2020, Fauci said we were seeing the beginning of community spread. He was asked if people should change their behavior, and he said no. Right now, at this moment, there is no need to change anything you're doing on a day-by-day basis. In fact, had people known that they should be changing their behavior by then, we may have seen very different results from the pandemic.
And who knows, honestly? I mean, who knows?
Who can say for sure?
And this is just about the thing where he told people not to wear masks, whatever. We've already talked about that. So we know that. Here we go.
The errors are just one piece of the puzzle. Worse than the errors is the fact that Fauci is clearly politicized. Last August and September, as the Trump administration pushed for schools to open, Fauci mostly argued for schools to remain closed. After Biden's election, Fauci began to say schools should open. And when the Biden administration got pushback from unions, Fauci went on TV and said the COVID stimulus bill had to be passed before schools could open. A health official should not be pushing economic policy. And now, in addition to the errors and the politicization, Fauci is all over the place on vaccines. The miracle drugs inoculating us against COVID-19 are showing incredible results in tests. Yet still, the drumbeat of voices saying we will have to mask and social distance indefinitely has been growing louder and louder and begins with Fauci himself. During a White House briefing a week ago, Fauci said, so there are things, even if you're vaccinated, that you're not going to be able to do in society. For example, indoor dining, theaters, places where people congregate. What's the point of the fucking vaccine then, dude?
I know. I don't get it. And again, that is him making an economic decision for the country and brainwashing fucking idiots into more totalitarian compliance. I mean, essentially, so anyway, you get the point. I mean, basically what's in the article is what I'd already said to you weeks ago, just why is this guy talking to the public? I don't get it.
So yesterday, Texas announced that they will be, do you have an article for it already?
It's really short.
Yeah. Greg Abbott announced that he's lifting the mask mandate in Texas, even as health officials warn not to ease safety restrictions. Their cases are 7,000 a week.
Right. Right. And again, like there is no conversation about Florida. Like,
None. And they've had like zero restrictions. And I don't hear about people in my family who live in Florida dying in droves.
No, and also Florida has a giant elderly population. I mean,
massive.
I know.
My grandfather got cancer during the pandemic, is cancer-free now, went to the hospital, which increases your odds of getting COVID by like tenfold.
Yes.
Didn't get it, and now is cancer-free and healthy. It's like...
I know. Like... It's just like I don't.
All of my elderly family live in Florida, basically.
And I always like go to the like
or a lot of my elderly family.
Just old people just live there. I mean, most like retired East Coasters go down there to like not pay taxes. But yeah, so it's like this. It can be true that this is a highly infectious because of like the amount of viral load that it is attached to it. Like it makes it different than flu. And it's also a more aggressive pulmonary virus. Like this is true. We can figure this is true. But at the same time, it's like I always go to the percentage calculator, and they posted like the amount of cases that have been confirmed in the country since over the year, and then I think it's like 500,000 that are dead. And we do a percentage. It's like 1.7% of the population that had got infected died of it, right? And I bet you tons of people got infected and didn't even know really, like, or it was just sort of like. Maybe or maybe not. I mean, who knows? Like, so how many of them didn't get tested or whatever? But like the ones that died, we certainly know how they died. So like again, it is above average in terms of like the death rate for a normal pulmonary virus that is spread through the air.
Yeah.
But it's still I'm not seeing. And I love what Greg Abbott said at the end here. Removing state mandates does not end personal responsibility and caring for your family members. Friends and others in your community, Abbott said, people and businesses don't need the state telling them how to operate. Correct. And this is really kind of what we should have been doing from the beginning. It's like you can't bully people into compliance. Like if they're gonna do something dumb and go hang out with their elderly grandmother, it's like these are the kind of people that wouldn't really care anyway. It's like, but in the more you act like the bullying thing, it's like don't press this red button. No, really don't press it. Really don't press the red button. Mm-hmm. And then there's also like this fucking video, and like it's been this never-ending avalanche of just weird dystopian horseshit when our leaders, Gavin Newsom, Pelosi, Lori Lightfoot, Cuomo, like they don't follow any of their own rules they're setting for the populace, so they clearly think they're above them. They're all getting richer during all this, like people like Lori Loeffler and the other guy, I can't remember his name, where they knew information, put stocks and things that would go up over time, made a ton of money. And then also they've given us $1,800 in a year.
In 1 year.
In a year. And for what? Like I don't know.
Right. I mean, let's think about it. So
yeah, North Carolina, Idaho is trying to do something right now, and Mississippi also is doing the same thing as Texas.
Wow. So what is 1,800 divided by 12? Is that 150?
Sorry, what was that?
$1,800 divided by 12 months. It's like $100 some odd dollars a month,
right? For
a year.
Yeah,
is all they've given us.
You'd make more money on CalFresh or food stamps, as
we've already seen. Mm-hmm. It's like CalFresh is willing to give you $250 a month. Mm-hmm. For groceries, which is more than the national level of government has even considered offering us.
Correct.
God damn, I'm back on this now, and I can't get off it.
Yeah, it's and Brand says, but I think the vulnerable will govern themselves accordingly. We shall see, as they should have been. They shouldn't have they shouldn't have quarantined the healthy. I don't get why we did this. And so everybody in our demographic age group is like, for the foreseeable future, basically financially fucked.
Yeah.
And then just like, again, to watch our fucking elite argue over this stupid fucking shit, drone strike, like just go. And like to Trump's credit, like there was no talk of deficit. He's just like, here's money, take money. Like,
exactly.
Whether or not he actually implemented it is one thing, but the fact that there's even sort of a pearl clutching about the debt right now, it's like,
who gives a fuck about the debt?
I know. It's
we're all in debt.
Oh, and the great part too is that like if there wasn't like IP issues attached to these vaccines, they would already be, we'd all have them, which just proves that, like, again, how seriously we're supposed to take it as a populace, but corporate America doesn't want to give up their intellectual property or their patents in order to inoculate the public. By the way, companies like Pfizer and Moderna are getting over $1 billion grants from the government because they successfully did this. So whatever they would lose in intellectual property on this vaccine, they don't want to give up, even though they got granted this amount of money, I guess without the stipulation that they needed to let it go once they had it. So now we're stuck with either these really two amazing mRNA type vaccines or the Johnson & Johnson one, which is basically like the flu shot, where they inject a dead virus into you. It's like, cool. So yeah, like, so like the corporate oligarchy doesn't give a shit at all, because they have seen record profits. I mean, they have made so much fucking money while everybody just gets stuff down. But it's like, so yeah, I mean, storm the Capitol again and kill all these people in Minecraft. You know, just go do it. I mean, what's the fucking point anymore? I don't get it. Like, these people are not public servants. They're not.
Right.
Like they deserve to be like treated with no respect, like none. So
I absolutely agree.
Lightfoot is supposedly considering changes to rules, laws around police raids. That was surprising to hear. Yeah, I mean, that probably should happen. Hello, Gio. So I guess, anyway, that's all I got on that one.
Yeah. Do we want to get into our advice column?
I would love to, yes.
I think maybe my questions are still live, or the Q&A is still live on my Instagram. If you want to get a question in, we're going to answer it. Let me see if I think I only got a few this time around, which is not a big deal.
So my plan for the Patreon, once it has like enough people, is to use the Patreon as like a different kind of show where it's not really current event based, but just like advice based.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Advice based. Yeah. That's awesome. And we can do that, and we can make them like public after like a month or so or something like that. We can upload them. Yeah. So that it's not like exclusive. You can't have, I mean, you have to ask, you have to be part of the Patreon to ask the questions, or like,
I mean, we can still take questions from the public, but they'll be answered on there.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah. That's a great idea. And then we can post it at a later time to the public. I think that'd be kind of cool if we did something like that.
Yeah.
So we're doing a little advice column. You could head to my Instagram at Sean D. Castro if you would like to ask a question. We're going to do it all anonymous. I'm not going to say any names or anything, but also you're putting your trust into me. So if you don't know me too well, or like you're nervous about doing that, I'm not going to give a name out, but I will know what your question is.
Yeah. I think that there's two options I considered for the anonymity thing, is like setting up like a voicemail.
That's a great idea.
Which I think would be kind of interesting, or finding some sort of program through which we could have the questions asked anonymously, if you would like that to be the case.
That would be awesome. Yeah. So I say we just get started in the order that I received these questions.
Sure.
The first question is about self-love. So this comes from a friend of mine, and they say, this is a friend of mine named Parsley. Parsley says, Parsley's a girl, and they say, self-love. Sometimes I think I'm the luckiest person in the world who's ever lived, and sometimes I really get down on myself. How can I learn to love myself more often?
When you're down on yourself, think about the person you were when you were feeling good and wonder why, like what changed exactly. You know what I mean? And in terms of like self-love, it's like you can just maximize things that would make you feel better, like exercise or whatever. I mean, if it's like clinical depression or something, I mean, self-love is also seeing a professional, you know, to kind of help with that kind of stuff. But like the way I can relate to this is like, I have like body dysmorphia for sure. And like, I'll never like be like, yeah, dude, like I'll never be like Patrick Bateman where I'm like looking at myself
and looking at yourself in the mirror. Yeah.
It'll never be that. But simultaneously, like I'll look back on pictures where I was like in better shape than I am now, and it still wasn't good enough then. And then now that I'm 30, I just kind of don't really care anymore, because I'm like, there's just never there's no satiating this need. It's impossible. And I think that like you actually can channel this sort of thing into something really productive, because it'll never make you complacent about work or whatever. And like, or in life really, like complacency is kind of death.
Yeah.
And so channel those feelings into something kind of productive, and I think whatever funk you're in, it might pull you out of it. Unless you need medical help, then go do that. 'Cause that's also self-love.
So this question, like they only let you put in so much. So I think this question got a little bit cut off, and I'm wondering if I'm extrapolating incorrectly. But I think that's sound advice for that side of the question. The other side I'm thinking maybe is, does this person, like, cause it cuts off at person who's ever lived. Like the luckiest person who's ever lived. I don't know if that's the end of the question, but I think it is. maybe they're struggling with like being a little bit too self-righteous and loving themselves a little bit too much. How can they stay humble? Sit down, you know that fucking mural that we drove past that says "Be humble"?
Oh my god, yeah, that's
Kill
just,
me,
it's
dude.
like it's wine o'clock type of signs.
Wine o'clock.
Well, I mean, I think that you're compelled to ask this question. I don't really think you have to worry about being too self-righteous.
Yeah,
because you're obviously thinking about it.
Like, I think there's
a true
also
narcissist
like,
doesn't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. There is a culture of like extreme self-care.
Yeah, that's getting a bit
like,
perverted. Yeah.
Like blocking your dad on Facebook is considered self-care now. So like, I think that is a little bit dangerous. That it's like pushing a line with,
because you'll indulge like your worst. Like you need people who criticize you.
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of people insulate their lives through which they won't receive criticism, and it makes them feel good, but you're now stunted in terms of your growth as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So, but I think that it's a good sign they're even asking the question, because it means that, like, you know, it's kind of like the benefits or the pitfalls of imposter syndrome. You know.
Yeah. Exactly. So Vanessa asks, or rather just posed this, not even as really a question. My boss harassed me at my job and they gaslighted me into thinking it was my fault. I'm assuming the question is, what do I do? The thing is, if I were you, like, your boss could be like your manager at the store. Go to like the regional manager, go to the HR department. Like, you can report this through a means that they probably didn't teach you about, which is very illegal. They probably didn't tell you how to do it, but you can report sexual harassment. You can report any kind of harassment to somebody above the person that harassed you.
Well, I'm wondering who's gaslighting this person into thinking that it was their fault.
The boss.
The boss is. So the boss is the one that
the boss is the one who harassed her and is now saying it's her fault.
Didn't you see they though? They were gaslighting her.
And they gaslighted me. My boss harassed me at my job, and they gaslighted me into thinking it was my fault.
They're doing gender neutral pronouns.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I would definitely, you know, it depends on like what kind of job you work at, but like definitely contact like an HR department or whatever. Because like, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you talked to this person directly and it didn't do anything. So, I mean, you're only, and it sounds like if it bothered you in this way, it's probably like a pattern of behavior this person has, and
yeah.
And yeah, it's inappropriate, and
it's super inappropriate. And if you end up reporting it like to somebody higher up and you get fired, that's a major legislation issue. You'll get a lot of money. Exactly. Yeah. So you don't have much to lose by reporting it. You can't get fired legally. If they do, they're in for a major loss. And you're in for a major gain. And adding this to So going to something like HR and reporting this instance or this incident adds like a tick to the boss's record that will help prevent this happening to you and other people who you work with in the future.
Exactly. And also too, I mean, HR is the most fucking useless department of the pajama class on the planet. So give them some fucking work to do, because they have the easiest fucking job in the world.
Exactly.
So make those fucking lazy assholes work.
So this next question comes from Ryan, and he says, how do I deal with my negative, whiny friends? They are entirely woe is me. Like, all they do is like, it's all pity party with them.
New friends.
I mean, yeah. Why continue to hang out with people like that?
Yeah, because it makes you the same person. I mean, like, there really is a lot of truth to like you are who you surround yourself with, and so like. Yeah. You know, it so much so that you'd like have to pose the question about it, like just be honest, be like, you know, you're a fucking bummer, and like, you know, kind of similar to one of the other questions that like, if you're that honest and that direct with people about like self-love and the, you know, getting criticism kind of thing, it may make them change, because they may not even be aware that they're like this, you know, and like I can relate to it. I mean, I definitely like have like kind of a darker personality, but at the same time, it's like I can generally sense when it's wearing someone down, and then you find something else to talk about or do, or wonder what's going on in my life that's making me feel this way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would be honest with them about they're bumming you out, and if they respond poorly, then it's time for a new group of friends.
I absolutely agree. I think like if you were to, I mean, you don't get along with them. Clearly, there's a fundamental difference between your personalities that is making it hard for you to hang out with them.
Greg makes a good point too. He says a small, well-selected circle is better than a larger, negatively impactful circle. That's been something that's always perplex me is like why people feel like they need to have tons of friends, or like maintain relationships that aren't, there's like no return on investment. I don't, I've never understood that. It's like, I'll straight up tell people like, yeah, I'm not really getting anything out of this anymore. Like I even told people like, I've kind of outgrown you. And so, you know, it sucks and it's like hurtful, but it's like the kind of thing of like, you know, someone sends you a text and someone you don't really care about and you feel this need to respond. And it's like, I just don't.
Yeah.
And eventually they'll get the picture and then they'll go away.
They'll stop texting
You can have about 10 people that aren't your family that you can really care about. And that's really about I think the bandwidth for most people.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple more questions. I think 2 more.
Okay.
This one comes from Nathan, and Nathan says, how do you let go of someone toxic but you still miss them?
So I assume it's like a relationship thing.
Probably a relationship thing, yeah.
So I you know, it's if it is a relationship, it's there's like stages of these kinds of things, right? So like I would imagine you're kind of in the like denial phase or whatever. So it's like, okay, when you break up with a person, you can channel all your anger, and this could be a friend. This goes for friendships too. You can channel all your anger into focusing on them being toxic in whatever way they were toxic. But then you go through this sort of withdrawal where you start to like miss the person because you probably weren't around them all the time, and you forget about all the shit that made you angry in the first place, or really more specifically hurt you. You know what I mean? And so I guess like don't dwell on it and let it make you angry, but just make a checklist of the reasons why you are no longer seeing this person, and it might put it into perspective again. And like you'll still miss them, but it'll fade. And if it is a relationship, it'll fade when you meet somebody else.
And oftentimes when you look back on previous relationships, there's this really lovely song by Lorde called Supercut. And I think it's the world's greatest song ever written in the modern era.
Like snapshots of like,
basically it's like I look back on a previous relationship and I think fondly of it, but I remember, I'm only seeing the good parts. Like it's the supercut of all of the great moments of our relationship. There's like, it's a really lovely song. So I really like it. It's like a nice pop song, but like basically it's like you only remember the parts of the relationship that made you feel fulfilled and good, and you're forgetting all of the parts of the like abuse and mistrust and negative feelings that you had during the relationship that you're now free of.
Right.
But you missed the part that you thought made you feel whole.
Right. It like that movie 500 Days of Summer actually is a pretty good like segment about it. Did you ever see it?
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, where it's like when he first breaks up with her, or she breaks up with him, and he's all depressed. He remembers all the early on stuff where it was good and whatever, and then it like goes through the stages, and then like eventually he starts to remember the same memories, but later on in time, where she was kind of not horrible to him, but just like dismissive and uninterested and over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then finally, like just through sort of acceptance, and then seeing that she'd moved on, allowed him to finally sort of let it go, you know. And so, but you're not around this person for a reason, and toxic is a pretty strong word. So just remember like why you're not talking to this person or not around them, and
make a list of why you miss them and make a list of why they're toxic,
and then
compare the two, and be like, oh, can I really put up with the toxic reasons to go back to this person?
Right.
And the answer is usually no.
No. Yeah.
Always no.
Yeah, and also too, like for your own self-preservation, I mean, would you feel good about yourself giving into, you know, what, like leaving was what you knew was better for yourself, and then validating that person that you feel is toxic by giving them your attention and giving them the power, that would feel worse to you ultimately than just bailing.
Imagine the feeling of self-regression. That's one of my biggest fears, regression. I hate going backwards. Backwards in time. I'm a time traveler. Backwards in like mindset and I guess like success, you know? Like if I were to drop out of school right now, this is one of the only reasons I haven't dropped out of school is because I have a huge fear of regression.
Yeah.
If I were to drop out of school right now, I'd be back at square one. I don't have a degree. So what was the point of doing all this? Why did I spend now like $20,000 to go to this school? So I cannot regress. I think that would be torturous for me to go back to a previous relationship because it's regression.
Well, and then like, you know, for both of us, I mean, we both had, you know, toxic relationships, and I was toxic in a lot of ways in my last one, but it's like once we had we like knew it was like serious and we were together, you start to like really see what made you, when you're in a relationship that's better, even that with a friend or with whatever, you realize what wasn't working about the last one. And then slowly over time, you start to just be like, what the fuck was what was I thinking? You know what I mean?
I do that?
Even if it's just like your personalities don't mesh, you know, like it's nothing like, you know, no one cheated or like anything crazy, but it's just like something wasn't working here.
It's like, it's why my huge fear of regression is why it's why like when my last like real boyfriend broke up with me, I was like, okay, then this is done. I'm not coming back to this. That was probably the first time that I officially like made the point of not going back. And so yeah, there's no way I would ever do that. From that point on, I was like, yeah, I'm never going back. So that really upset him, but I think it can upset a lot of people. Like, I think a lot of people are like stuck, and when you move on and you refuse to go back, they get particularly toxic.
You have the power.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so let them go by finding somebody new or finding a new hobby.
And be proud of yourself for not regressing.
Exactly.
Like, you can find power in that.
The month after I broke up with that last boyfriend, I started a clothing line. So do something else to occupy your time.
Yeah.
It wasn't successful by any means, but like I still did it. And it helped me get out of a mindset that was like relationship based.
Yeah, that was a lot of cool hobbies I learned how to do was because of trying to get over either just out of a depression thing or like relationships ending and the avalanche of emotions that come along with that as well. So
So I'm gonna refresh the page here. I think we have one more question, but I want to be absolutely sure. Yeah, one more question.
Okay.
This is from, I was about to say Giovanni, but that's too similar to Gio, and it's not from Gio.
You can just say like one letter if you want.
This is from H.
Okay.
How do you pursue possible passions if you fear that failure will kill the joy of said passions? So like if your fear is paralyzing you because you don't want to fail at this new passion, how do you pursue that thing? How do you shed the fear of failure?
Well, either you fear failure so much you just don't ever do it or don't ever try, and then you live a life of regret, or you take a chance, maybe it makes you miserable, but at least you tried.
Yeah, what's worse, your fear of failure or your fear of regret? Right.
Do you remember that scene in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest where he says I can lift that giant water thing out of the they're playing cards in like that shower area.
Yes.
And he goes like, I'm gonna like I bet he bets them all money that he can pull it out of the ground, and they're all like, you can't pull it out of the ground. He doesn't even come close, right? But he puts in like a pretty valiant effort to try to pull this like marble water like fountain thing out of the ground.
Yeah.
And when he walks away, he's like, at least I tried, God damn it. At least I tried. And then like everyone they're not embarrassed for him anymore. They're just like, he's right.
Yeah.
None of us are trying, but he tried, you know?
Exactly.
And so I mean, that's the thing is like if it's something that you say that you use the word passion, which means that it's something that makes your soul feel good. If you don't do it because you have a fear of failure, you're just going to regret not doing it in the first place.
Your soul will ultimately feel worse than if you just failed.
And if it's something that you have a fear of failure about, it means that it's some kind of thing that society tells you that, or statistically, it has a high rate of failure, you know, or a high rate of not being successful in this thing. But again, it's like, what do you have to lose? You know, like you're not going to lose your dignity because again, just like even like you are the one that gets to decide whether or not you consider yourself to be an abject failure or somebody who tried.
Yeah, that's great. That was fantastic. I think that's the end of the questions, so we'll end it there. But in the future, I really like that Patreon advice idea.
Yeah,
the advice column.
Yeah, and yeah, once we get more people in there, that'll definitely. Yeah. Or actually, I mean, we can just. I think that asking the general questions and then posting them there, and then
we can do it monthly so that questions sort of pile up, you know.
Yeah, and then we can tell like maybe I think a month's a little long, like maybe 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
And then we'll post them publicly.
That's perfect. Cool. I really like that idea.
I don't know if you can post video on Patreon.
I think you can.
Really?
You can post private video, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, or you could. Well, I think what you can do is you can link them to unlisted YouTube videos.
There we go. That's great.
I think that's how they do it. But anyway, we'll figure it out. But yeah,
that was fun.
That was fun. I like doing those live.
I do too. I thoroughly enjoy it because it makes me feel as though I'm smarter than I actually am. Like I have more life experience than I actually
honestly
do.
I mean it is like I know it is like it could be perceived as if like I'm so wise, that's why I'm getting life advice. It's like no, it's because I fucking have made so many fucking giant mistakes in my life. That wisdom comes with fucking up a lot, which I have a tendency to do that a lot. So most of these questions that are being asked are like ones that I did the wrong thing on. So it's like,
right, exactly.
I can try to tell you how to avoid it, but sometimes you have to make your own mistakes to learn from the consequences and know what not to do again. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
That's all I've got.
All right. Well, we love you all. We'll
love
see you
guys.
next Wednesday at 5:00.
Bye.
Bye.
Basket.